I believe that you are also bothered like me on what is happening in the Middle East, especially between the Hamas and the Israelites. Welcome to Journey with Dan Nadaon. Today we're going to speak about the war in the Middle East. What is the cause of it, when it started, and whether we're about to see the end in the nearby future. You see, it all started on the 7th of October 2023 when the Israelis woke up in the morning and found that many people were slaughtered, murdered, butchered, raped, and killed. Both the children, the women, the elderly, all of them were killed, and many of them were abducted. And they took them to Gaza. Along the way, many of them have actually died. Many of the hostages have died along the way because of the terrible way things have been happening on the other side. Now, Israel on the other side did not just sit down and began to actually fight. And I'm coming just to share this now because even though we thought it was coming to an end, but it's about 2 years now, and the war is still raging on. And as it's raging on, many Israelites have died. It has led to the killing of the Hamas leader and the killing of all the leaders of the Hamas. Just last week, they killed the prime minister of the Hamas government. And so on and on it's going. And the question is, what are they fighting for? I think that could be the question that you have in your mind as well. What are they fighting for? You know, for you to understand the cause of the fight and what they're fighting for, it goes back to the time of the book of 1 Samuel in the Bible, when there was a time of King Saul. King Saul was in war with the Philistines. And so King Saul could not kill the Philistine. I mean, the giant that the Philistines had raised called Goliath. And so David comes in. So in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, you see that there was a Goliath that came to challenge the king of Israel to come and fight him. And if the Israelites won, then the Philistines would be their slaves. But if the Philistines won, then the Israelites would be their slaves. Along the way, we see that David actually conquered Goliath. And that's a long history. So it goes from that time. So how does the Philistines connect to the Hamas? You see, Hamas has been under the shadows of the Iranian government, the proxies of the Iranian government, and proxies of the Houthis, the Yemens, and even the Hamas, but also backed by the Palestine. Palestine at first had actually backed the Hamas, but along the way they have been trying to withdraw, but still have, because the Gaza is under the Palestinian territory. That's Palestinian land. Well, there's a bit of a back and forth. There's part that belongs to Israel, and there's a part that belongs to Palestine. And so you begin to wonder, why this historical war? It goes also back to the time Israel regained their independence. In May 14th, 1948, when Israel declared really their independence, and they announced their independence, on the eve of their independence, Palestine and other Arab countries organized war and attacked Israel. So the fight that you are seeing now between the Yemens, between the Houthis, between the Iranians, is just on one thing: they hate Israel with passion. Now, let's be real here, friends. Israel has continued to defend themselves. Although I do not approve of the innocent bloodshed, there are women that have died in Gaza. There are children that have died in Gaza. There are people, innocent lives, and recently the U.S. also bombed the Houthis in Yemen, and many lives continue to die. And I love the fact that the United States has continued to defend their allies, the Israelites. And I believe that Israel has a right to defend themselves. But the thing is, Israel has a right to defend themselves amidst those that are really the rebels, that are fighting. But they're innocent lives. They're innocent lives that have died. There are churches in Palestine. There are churches in Gaza. And yes, even if it's an Islam place, there are people that still believe in God that are in those places. But you see, like I told you, that in May 14th, 1948, when Israel became a sovereign nation, that is when a bigger war again came. The Egyptians in Africa allied with the Saudi Arabia, with the Iraq, with the Iran, and with the Palestinians, and they all started attacking Israel. And I will tell you, Israel every year, every now and then has kept on evolving on their defense. Recently, you remember, probably as you've been following through the news, that there's a time that Iran sent over 1,000 ballistic missiles. And it's interesting that all of them were deflected with their drone, with iron bar, bar, something to just repel them and divert the missiles to another place. But you see, even with the greatest success that God has given or the Israelites has had, I want you to know one thing today, that Israel will never lose that war. Because in the book of 1 Samuel, David said something that is fascinating when he told Goliath. Yeah, David said the Philistines in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 45. David said the Philistines, "You come to me against the sword and the spear and the javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord, the God of the heavens armies." Wow! Now, every time Israel is fighting the Hamas and fighting the Yemen, they have a backup of saying, "We come in the name of the Lord, of Yeshua, of Yahweh," because that's a historical trend that God has always defended Israel. God has always defended them. Now, it doesn't mean that God doesn't love Hamas. Doesn't mean that God doesn't love the Iranians and the Iraqis and all those are God's people. But you see, there is a covenant here. God made a covenant with Israel many years ago. Just pause a little bit there. Are there things that God has promised to you? Are there things that God has said, "I will bring them to pass"? You know, you could be going through some situations in your life and you're wondering, okay, well, but God promised me. It's okay. Remind God that promise and say, "God, you reminded me. God, you told me this. I'm believing, I'm waiting on you." And so he will always come through. Let's get back to what we're sharing now here. So Hamas has continued to fight Israel. Israel has continued to defend themselves. Along the process, many lives have actually died. Should we support the many lives to die? No, absolutely no. Does Israel have a right to defend themselves? Absolutely yes. Does Hamas believe that they are on an ideology to defend themselves? Yes, as well. So how should we as Christians position ourselves in this matter? How should you and I position ourselves in this matter? You know, Israel is not about to stop to defend themselves. That is for sure. As long as Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of the Israel, the man is like a warlord. He defends. He's a fighter. I think he was born with a fighting spirit in him. Now, but how should we approach it as believers? Our approach should be to pray. We should be able to pray and say, "God, may your will be done." Because the truth is, we might think, "Okay, God, stop the war." And maybe God is just allowing this war to progress. And I'm not saying that God is allowing many lives to die. No. But I believe that in this, and please don't misquote me and say, "Well, Daniel, what are you trying to teach today?" I believe that the ideology the Hamas are fighting with is that they do not recognize Israel as a sovereign nation. And because that takes you back to what I was telling you, in May 14th, 1948, there was war. All the Arab countries organized, arranged themselves, and began to fight Israel. They attacked Israel from all the seven corners. Let me tell you, God still defended Israel. And even now, God is still defending Israel. If you have been following the trends, for some reasons, they got a very sophisticated intelligence. They have been eliminating the people that I needed to eliminate in very interesting areas. They eliminated even when they reached to Iran, and eliminated the leaders, Hezbollah leader, and then even the one of Hamas was eliminated, and all their the leaders, the government leaders, they have been eliminated. You would ask yourself, how did Israel get this wisdom? How did they get these capabilities? Of course, yes, God has given them the wisdom. God has given them the capability. God has helped them. But you see, one thing I would like you to take away today, Israel is not about to lose the war. And as long as God is still God, God will defend Israel because of the promise that he promised to Abraham. Because of the promise he promised them, how blessed Israel will be. Whoever attacks Israel, God will fight for them. And so it's at that point that Israel continues to win, to defend themselves until see success. As I come to the end today, you will wonder and say, okay, Daniel, so you have talked about how it all started. It started way back in the Old Testament when the Philistines came to challenge Israel and Israel won. The question is, did the Philistines actually stop fighting Israel even after the Goliath was defeated? No. They continue to fight Israel even up to now. They have built tunnels, they have built very sophisticated ways of how to move in Gaza, and they have spent a lot of money to invest in military than invest in their. I was very fascinated when the President Donald Trump was saying that he was going to help clear Gaza and make it a beautiful place. I think that would be the best place to be in. And just yesterday, I watched the news that some of the people in Hamas have begun to actually protest and saying no to Hamas. How I pray that the pressure would come from the people around and say no to the ideology so that we can see peace in the land. Now you're wondering and saying, it looks like you're defending Israel. No, I'm not defending Israel, but I'm also not bashing Israel. Do you know why? Because Israel has a right to defend themselves. You know, we also had a leader in Uganda, President Idi Amin, and the late now, he decided to actually he held the Israelis in hostage in Entebbe, and Israel came and entered Uganda, recovered their hostages, took them away, and only one person actually died from there. But took and while Amin was sleeping, mission happened within 1 hour. Everyone was actually free. You wonder and say, but how did they get that wisdom? You know, many years back before Uganda was also established, the Israelis are the ones who built Entebbe Airport. And so they knew everything about the Entebbe Airport. They knew everything about where the hostages were actually kept. Just like they have known how sophisticated their network is, that they know everything about what is happening in Gaza. They know. They hear them speak. But also, you see, they're the ones who supply Gaza with food. They're the ones who supply them with electricity. They're the ones who supply them with water. And it's interesting that with all of that, Hamas still continues to fight Israel. As I come to the end today, one thing I want to take away is pray for the will of God to prevail. If it's in the will of God for that war to continue until he comes back, may God's will be done. But my prayer is that may the innocent lives that have suffered, that have lost, the innocent children that have died in the process, may God have mercy upon them. I pray that may God continue to speak to us on how we should pray. You're wondering and saying, well, Daniel, now you're a Muslim or you are a Christian. No, I am a child of God, but what I see is not something I'm to be proud of. One thing that I know, the covenant that God set with Israel still stands. Yes, it still stands. And because it stands, Israel will never lose that war. Even if they are left with what, God will always defend them. Thank you so much for joining in today. I will be coming again to talk about just a little bit of something more about that war, what our part is as a children of God in this time when the war is going on. What do we need to do, and even the affairs around the world. God bless you.